The air at JFK International Airport was thick with tension, a buzzing hive of frustrated travelers, their voices overlapping in a chaotic symphony of complaints. Delayed flights, canceled routes, and overworked staff turned Terminal 4 into a pressure cooker. Amid the shouting and shuffling, a woman stood quietly in the check-in line, her presence almost invisible. Aysel wore faded jeans, a plain gray t-shirt, and a simple headscarf that framed her face. Her hands clutched a crumpled boarding pass, her only anchor in the storm of the crowded terminal. She didn't fidget or sigh like the others. Her calm was striking, almost out of place, as if she knew something no one else did. The line inched forward. A man in a wrinkled suit argued loudly with the person in front of her, waving his arms, his face red. "This is ridiculous. I paid for first class." A mother with 2 kids clung to her stroller, trying to soothe a crying toddler. Aysel's eyes scanned the scene, taking it all in without a word. She adjusted her scarf, her fingers brushing the edge of her boarding pass. The paper was worn, as if she'd been holding it too long, but her expression remained steady, unreadable. At the counter, Tom, a young airline employee in a creased uniform, was barely holding it together. His tie was loose, his eyes bloodshot from hours of dealing with angry passengers. "Next," he barked, not looking up from his computer. The woman in front of Aysel, a middle-aged lady in a bright red coat, stepped forward, slamming her passport down. "I need to be on the next flight to Chicago." Now, Tom didn't flinch. "Ma'am, that flight's canceled. Nothing's going out till tomorrow. Join the complaint line over there." His voice was sharp, like he'd said it 100 times already. The woman huffed, grabbed her bag, and stormed off, muttering under her breath. Aysel stepped up, her movements deliberate. She slid her boarding pass across the counter, her fingers steady. Tom barely glanced at it before shoving it back. "Flight's canceled. No rebookings right now. You gotta wait like everyone else." His tone was clipped, his eyes already on the next person in line. Aysel didn't move. "I understand, but this flight is important. Can you check if there's anything else available?" Her voice was soft but firm, cutting through the noise like a blade. Tom's jaw tightened. He leaned forward, his voice dripping with irritation. "Lady, you think you're the only one with somewhere to be? Look around. Everyone's stuck. Move along." A few people in line shifted uncomfortably, their eyes darting to Aysel. A man behind her whispered to his friend, "She's holding up the line." Another muttered, "Was he being such a jerk?" Aysel didn't react, but her gaze locked onto Tom's for a moment, and something flickered in her eyes, a spark, maybe anger, maybe something else. She tried again, her voice steady. "I'm not asking for special treatment. Just check the system, please." Tom snorted, tossing her boarding pass back like it was trash. "I already told you, there's nothing. You want to complain? Line's over there." He pointed to a corner where a crowd of furious passengers swarmed a lone customer service rep. Aysel's fingers tightened around her boarding pass, but she didn't raise her voice. Instead, she stepped back, her face unreadable, and moved toward a nearby bench. The crowd kept buzzing. A teenage boy in a hoodie, standing a few feet away, had his phone out, recording the whole thing. "Yo, this guy's rude as hell," he whispered to his friend, zooming in on Aysel as she sat down. She didn't even flinch. "Bet this goes viral." His friend nodded, scrolling through his phone. "Post it, man. People eat this stuff up." Aysel, oblivious to the camera, pulled out her own phone and typed a quick message. Her fingers moved fast, her expression still calm but focused, like someone who knew exactly what they were doing. Across the terminal, Tom's supervisor, Mr. Hayes, watched from behind a glass partition. His suit was crisp, but his face was tired, lines etched deep from dealing with the day's chaos. He'd seen Tom snap at passengers before, but something about this exchange caught his attention. Maybe it was Aysel's calm or the way Tom dismissed her without a second thought. Hayes frowned, jotting something down on a clipboard. He muttered to himself, "Kid's gonna get himself fired if he keeps this up." Aysel sat on the bench, her phone now resting in her lap. She glanced at the crowd, her eyes lingering on a young woman struggling with a suitcase, then on a group of businessmen laughing loudly at a nearby gate. The terminal was a microcosm of the world, people rushing, judging, ignoring. Aysel's lips curved into a faint smile, but it wasn't warm. It was the kind of smile that hid something big, something no one saw coming. The teenager's video was already uploading. The caption reading, "Airline worker humiliates passenger at JFK. Wait till you see what happens next." Comments started pouring in. Who is she? Why is he so mean? But she's gonna sue. Aysel didn't know it yet, but the internet was about to make her the center of attention. She leaned back, her scarf slipping slightly, revealing a small, elegant necklace that glinted under the harsh airport lights. It was the only hint that she wasn't as ordinary as she seemed. Back at the counter, Tom was still barking orders, but his confidence was starting to crack. He kept glancing at Aysel, who was now sipping a coffee she'd bought from a kiosk. Something about her bothered him, like a puzzle he couldn't solve. He muttered to a co-worker, "People like her think they can just demand stuff. Waste of time." His co-worker shrugged, too busy to care. But the crowd wasn't as dismissive. A few passengers had started whispering about Aysel, their voices a mix of pity and curiosity. "She doesn't look like she can afford a lawyer," one said. "Maybe she's got a story," another replied. Aysel's phone buzzed. She glanced at the screen, her eyes narrowing as she read the message, "We're in position. Ready when you are." She typed a quick reply. Her fingers steadied despite the chaos around her. The airport's fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, casting long shadows. Aysel stood, her movements deliberate, and walked toward a quieter corner of the terminal. The teenager followed her with his phone, sensing something big was about to happen. He wasn't wrong. Aysel settled onto a hard plastic bench near a coffee kiosk, the faint aroma of burnt espresso mixing with the stale air of JFK's Terminal 4. The chaos of the airport swirled around her, screaming kids, irate passengers shouting into phones, and the relentless announcements blaring over the intercom. Her faded jeans and plain gray t-shirt blended into the crowd, her headscarf drawing only fleeting glances from passersby. She sipped her coffee, the paper cup warm in her hands, and stared out at the sea of people. Her calm was unshaken, but her eyes held a glint of purpose, like someone waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Across the terminal, Tom was still at the check-in counter, his voice sharp as he dismissed another passenger. "No, we don't have any seats. Try again tomorrow," he snapped at a frazzled woman in a business suit. His co-worker, a tired-looking woman named Maria, leaned over and whispered, "Tom, chill out. You're gonna get us both in trouble." Tom just shrugged, his face a mask of indifference. "They're all the same, whining about their flights, like I can magically fix this mess." Maria shook her head, but said nothing, her attention already back on her computer screen. Aysel's phone buzzed in her lap. She glanced down, her expression unreadable as she read the message. "Team's ready. Just say the word." Her fingers hovered over the screen before typing a quick reply. "Hold for now." Observing, she slipped the phone into her pocket and leaned back, her gaze drifting to the crowd. A young couple argued nearby, their voices rising over a missed connection. A janitor pushed a mop across the floor, his movements slow and methodical. Aysel's eyes lingered on him for a moment, noting the way he avoided eye contact with the passengers. Everyone here was playing a role, she thought, some more convincingly than others. The teenage boy from earlier, still clutching his phone, was now perched on a nearby bench, his friend nudging him excitedly. "Yo, Jake, your video's at 10,000 views already," the friend said, scrolling through comments. "People are pissed about that jerk at the counter. Check this one. Who's that lady? She looks like she's hiding something." Jake grinned, zooming in on Aysel from a distance. "She's still just sitting there, but she's gonna do something wild." He adjusted his phone, keeping her in frame, his thumbs already typing a new caption. "This lady's about to snap at JFK." Stay tuned. Aysel didn't notice the camera. Her focus was on the terminal, her mind cataloging every detail, the way the staff moved, the tone of their voices, the way passengers reacted to being brushed off. She'd seen it all before, in different airports, different cities. But today was different. Today, she wasn't just passing through. Her coffee cup was nearly empty now, but she held onto it, her fingers tracing the rim as if grounding herself for what was coming. At the check-in counter, Tom's supervisor, Mr. Hayes, stepped out from his glass-walled office, his face etched with exhaustion. He'd been watching the chaos unfold all day, fielding complaints from corporate and trying to keep the staff from imploding. His eyes landed on Aysel, still seated calmly on the bench. Something about her bothered him, not her appearance, but her composure. Most passengers would be yelling, crying, or storming off by now. But Aysel, she was a statue, unruffled, almost too calm. Hayes adjusted his tie and walked toward the counter, clipboard in hand. "Tom, what was with that woman earlier?" he asked, keeping his voice low. Tom rolled his eyes, not bothering to look up. "Just another complainer. Wanted a new flight, but I told her we're booked. She's probably still sulking over there." He jerked his head toward Aysel's bench. Hayes frowned, his gaze following Tom's gesture. "She didn't seem like a complainer." "You sure you checked everything?" Tom snorted, tapping his keyboard with exaggerated force. "Checked what?" "Systems down. Flights are canceled. She's not getting on a plane today." End of story. Hayes didn't respond. He scribbled something on his clipboard and walked away, his steps slow, deliberate. He'd been in this job long enough to know when something felt off, and Aysel was setting off every alarm in his head. He glanced back at her, catching the faint smile on her lips as she watched a group of passengers argue with another staff member. It wasn't a warm smile, it was calculated, like she was studying a chessboard. The terminal was growing louder, the tension thickening as more passengers realized their flights weren't going anywhere. A man in a flashy tracksuit was shouting at Maria now, waving his phone in her face. "I paid $2,000 for this ticket. You're gotta get me on a plane, or I'm suing." Maria's face was tight. Her voice strained as she repeated the same script. "Sir, I'm sorry, but there's nothing available until tomorrow." The man slammed his fist on the counter, drawing gasps from the crowd. Aysel's eyes flicked toward the scene, her expression unchanging. But her fingers tightened around her coffee cup. Jake, the teenager, was still filming, his phone now capturing the new argument. "This place is a circus," he muttered to his friend, who was scrolling through the comments on the first video. "Yo, someone said they saw her on the news before. Think she's famous or something." Jake shrugged, zooming in on Aysel again. "Dunno, but she's got main character energy. Look at her just sitting there like she owns the place." Aysel's phone buzzed again, this time. The message was longer, and her eyes narrowed as she read it. "We've got eyes on the staff schedules. Tom's been flagged for multiple complaints. Hayes is clean but overwhelmed. Ready to move." Aysel's fingers moved swiftly, her reply brief, "Not yet." "Need more." She slipped the phone back into her pocket and stood, stretching slightly as if she'd been sitting too long. Her movements were smooth, almost too graceful for someone in such a chaotic environment. She tossed her empty coffee cup into a nearby trash can and started walking toward a quieter corner of the terminal, near a row of deserted gates. The crowd was too distracted to notice her, but Jake's camera followed. "She's up to something," he whispered, his voice tinged with excitement. His friend laughed. "Dude, you're obsessed. Maybe she's just getting another coffee." But Jake wasn't convinced. He'd seen enough viral videos to know when a moment was about to break, and Aysel was giving him all the signs. At the counter, Tom was losing his edge. The constant complaints were wearing him down, and Maria's warnings weren't helping. "You need to cool it, Tom," she said, her voice sharper now. "Hayes is watching, and he's not happy." Tom waved her off, but his hands were shaking slightly as he typed. He glanced at Aysel's bench, only to realize she was gone. For a split second, his confidence faltered. Where'd she go? He thought, his eyes scanning the terminal. Something about her refusal to argue, her quiet exit, gnawed at him. He shook it off, turning back to the next passenger. "Next," he shouted, but his voice cracked slightly. Aysel was now near gate 23, a quiet stretch of the terminal where the crowds thinned out. She leaned against a wall, her eyes scanning the area. A few stranded passengers sat nearby, their faces buried in phones or laptops. A security guard patrolled slowly, his radio crackling with static. Aysel's phone buzzed again, and this time she answered it, her voice low. "What's the status?" she asked, her tone clipped. The voice on the other end was calm but urgent. "We've got the footage from the terminal cameras. Tom's been at it all day, same attitude, same dismissals. You want us to pull the trigger? Aysel's lips curved into that faint, calculated smile. Not yet, she said. Let it build. She hung up and slipped the phone into her pocket, her eyes catching the security guard as he passed. He gave her a quick nod, assuming she was just another passenger, but Aysel's gaze lingered on his badge. She noted the name Rodriguez and filed it away. Every detail mattered. She adjusted her scarf, her fingers brushing the small necklace hidden beneath it. The pendant was simple but elegant, a tiny silver crescent moon that caught the light just so. It was the only thing about her that hinted at something more, something the crowd hadn't yet seen. Back at the counter, Hayes was back in his office, reviewing security footage. He paused on a frame of Aysel at the counter, her calm face staring back at him. He zoomed in, trying to place her. Something about her was familiar, but he couldn't pin it down. He picked up his phone and dialed a number, his voice low. Hey, it's Hayes. Can you run a check on a passenger for me? Name's Aysel, no last name yet. She's different. The person on the other end promised to look into it, but Hayes wasn't optimistic. He leaned back in his chair, rubbing his temples. This day was already a nightmare, and something told him it was about to get worse. Jake's video was now at 20,000 views, the comments section a wildfire of speculation. She's gotta be someone important, one user wrote. No way she's just a random passenger, another added. A few trolls chimed in, mocking her appearance, but most were hooked, waiting for the next twist. Jake was glued to his phone, filming Aysel from a distance as she stood near gate 23. She's definitely planning something, he muttered, his friend nodding in agreement. This is gonna be huge. Aysel's phone buzzed one last time. She read the message, her expression hardening. Corporates watching. They know you're there. Be careful. She typed a single word in reply, good. She slipped the phone into her pocket and started walking back toward the main terminal, her steps purposeful. The crowd parted slightly as she moved, some instinctively sensing her presence, others too caught up in their own problems to notice. Jake's camera stayed on her, his heart racing. Whatever was coming, he wasn't going to miss it. The hum of JFK's terminal 4 was relentless, a cacophony of rolling suitcases, shouted arguments, and crackling intercoms announcing yet another delay. Aysel stood near gate 23, her back against a cold metal pillar, her eyes scanning the crowd like a hawk. Her faded jeans and plain t-shirt made her blend into the chaos, but the way she carried herself steady, unhurried set her apart. Her headscarf was slightly askew, revealing a glimpse of that silver crescent moon necklace, its subtle gleam catching the eye of a passing janitor. He gave her a quick glance, then looked away, assuming she was just another stranded traveler. Aysel's lips twitched, not quite a smile. As she noted his badge, Martinez, every detail was a piece of the puzzle she was assembling. Her phone vibrated in her pocket. She pulled it out, her fingers swift as she read the message. Social media's blowing up. Videos at 50,000 views. People are digging into your profile. Stay low. Aysel's eyes narrowed, but she didn't reply. She slipped the phone back into her pocket and shifted her weight, her gaze drifting to the check-in counter where Tom was still barking orders. His voice carried over the din, sharp and impatient. No, we can't do anything next. A woman in a bright yellow jacket threw her hands up, cursing under her breath as she stormed off. Tom didn't flinch, his face a mask of indifference, but his hands were unsteady as he typed, a faint sheen of sweat on his forehead. Aysel's attention shifted to the crowd. A young mother was struggling with a stroller, her toddler screaming as she tried to juggle a diaper bag and a phone call. A group of businessmen in tailored suits laughed loudly near a Starbucks kiosk, oblivious to the tension around them. Aysel's eyes lingered on them for a moment, noting their expensive watches and the way they tossed their empty coffee cups into the trash. Without a second thought, she filed it away, her mind working like a machine, cataloging behaviors, attitudes, and patterns. This wasn't just about Tom or the canceled flight. It was about the whole system, how it treated people, who it valued, who it dismissed. Near the gate, Jake, the teenager with the phone, was still filming, his eyes glued to Aysel. His friend, sprawled across a bench, was scrolling through comments on the viral video. "Yo, Jake, check this out. Someone says she might be a lawyer or something. Look at this comment. Bet she's gonna sue the airline." Jake grinned, zooming in on Aysel's face. "Nah, she's not a lawyer. She's got, like, CEO vibes. Look how chill she is." He adjusted his angle, catching the way Aysel's eyes flicked toward the counter, her expression unreadable but intense. "This is gonna hit 1 million views, I'm telling you." Aysel didn't notice the camera. She was too focused on the terminal, her senses tuned to every detail. A security guard, Rodriguez, passed by again, his radio crackling with updates about a lost bag in Terminal 2. She noted the way he scanned the crowd, his eyes skipping over her without a second thought. She adjusted her scarf, her fingers brushing the necklace again. It was a small thing, but it grounded her, a reminder of why she was here. She wasn't just a passenger caught in a bad day at JFK. She was here to expose something bigger, something the crowd and Tom had no idea was coming. Back at the check-in counter, Tom's co-worker Maria was losing patience. "Tom, you gotta stop snapping at people," she hissed, her voice low to avoid drawing attention. "Hayes is watching, and he's not happy." Tom rolled his eyes, slamming a stack of boarding passes onto the counter. "Let him watch. These people are driving me nuts. That woman earlier, acting like she's somebody special. Waste of my time." Maria shook her head, her lips tight. "You don't know who she was. You didn't even check her name." Tom snorted, but his confidence was slipping. He kept glancing toward the bench where Aysel had been, only to realize she was gone. A flicker of unease crossed his face. Where'd she go? He thought, his fingers pausing on the keyboard. In his glass-walled office, Mr. Hayes was on the phone, his voice tense. "Yeah, I need you to run a check on a passenger. Name's Aysel, no last name yet. She was at Tom's counter about 20 minutes ago." Something's off. The person on the other end, a corporate security officer, promised to dig into it, but Hayes wasn't holding his breath. He hung up and leaned back in his chair, rubbing his temples. The terminal was a powder keg, and he could feel it ready to blow. He pulled up the security footage again, pausing on Aysel's face as she stood at the counter. Her calm, her refusal to argue it wasn't normal. Most passengers would have lost it by now. He zoomed in, trying to place her. Was it her eyes? Her posture? Something about her felt familiar, like a half-remembered name on the tip of his tongue. Outside, the crowd was growing restless. A man in a hoodie was shouting at another staff member, demanding a refund. "I've been here for 6 hours. You can't just leave us stranded." The staff member, a young woman with a tight bun, repeated the same tired script. "Sir, I'm sorry, but all flights are grounded until tomorrow." The man threw his hands up, his voice echoing across the terminal. A few passengers started filming, their phones joining Jake's in capturing the chaos. Aysel watched from her spot near gate 23, her expression unchanged, but her mind racing. She'd seen this before. People pushed to their breaking point, staff stretched too thin, a system that cared more about profit than people. Her phone buzzed again. She glanced at the screen, her eyes narrowing as she read, "We've got the staff records. Tom's been written up twice for customer complaints. Hayes is under pressure from corporate to clean up the mess. You want us to escalate?" Aysel's fingers moved quickly, her reply short. "Wait, I need more data." She pocketed the phone and started walking, her steps slow but deliberate, weaving through the crowd like a shadow. She passed a newsstand where a TV was playing a local channel. The anchor was talking about the airport chaos, showing clips of angry passengers and overworked staff. Aysel paused, her eyes flicking to the screen. She knew it was only a matter of time before the story broke wide open. Jake's video was now at 75,000 views, the comments section a frenzy of speculation. "She's got to be someone important," one user wrote. "No way she's just a random passenger," another added. A few people posted theories. Maybe she's an undercover reporter. But she's a celebrity in disguise. Jake was glued to his phone, filming Aysel as she moved through the terminal. "She's heading toward the gates again," he whispered to his friend. "Something's up." His friend laughed, scrolling through more comments. "Dude, you're gonna be famous if this pops off." Aysel stopped near a deserted gate, her back to the wall, her eyes scanning the crowd. A group of college students sat nearby, their backpacks sprawled across the floor as they argued about what to do next. One of them, a girl in a beanie, noticed Aysel and whispered to her friend, "She looks so calm. How's she not freaking out like the rest of us?" Her friend shrugged, too tired to care. Aysel overheard but didn't react. She was used to being underestimated, invisible. It was her greatest weapon. Her phone buzzed again, this time with a call. She answered, her voice low. "What's the update?" The voice on the other end was crisp, professional. "We've got the terminal's internal logs. Tom's been skipping protocol all day, ignoring priority passengers, dismissing complaints without logging them. Corporate's getting antsy. They know something's up." Aysel's lips curved into that faint, calculated smile. "Good," she said. "Keep monitoring. I'll let you know when to move." She hung up, her eyes flicking to the check-in counter, where Tom was now arguing with a man in a leather jacket. The man was loud, his voice carrying across the terminal. "You're telling me I'm stuck here because you can't do your job? Unbelievable." Tom's face was red, his hands clenched. "Sir, I don't make the rules. Take it up with customer service." The man laughed bitterly, pulling out his phone to record. "Oh, I'm taking it up all right. This is going on X right now." Aysel watched, her expression neutral, but her mind racing. The terminal was a ticking time bomb, and she was holding the detonator. Back in his office, Hayes was still staring at the security footage. He froze the frame on Aysel's face, her calm eyes staring back at him. He picked up his phone again, dialing a different number. "Hey, it's Hayes. I need you to check something else. Look into any high-profile passengers who might be traveling incognito. I've got a feeling about this one." He hung up, his gut telling him he was onto something. Aysel wasn't just a passenger. She was a storm waiting to break. Aysel leaned against a pillar near gate 23, her silhouette barely noticeable in the flickering fluorescent lights of JFK's Terminal 4. The air was thick with the smell of sweat, stale coffee, and desperation. Passengers milled around, their voices a chaotic blend of anger and exhaustion. A man in a wrinkled suit was yelling into his phone, pacing back and forth, while a family of 4 sat huddled on the floor, their kids drawing on a crumpled airline pamphlet. Aysel's faded jeans and plain t-shirt made her invisible to most, her headscarf a quiet statement that drew only fleeting glances. But her eyes were sharp, scanning the terminal like a predator sizing up its prey. She clutched her phone, its screen dim but alive with messages she hadn't yet answered. The check-in counter was a war zone. Tom, his face flushed and tie askew, was snapping at another passenger, a woman in a floral dress who was nearly in tears. "Ma'am, I told you, there's no flights. You're not getting out tonight." His voice cut through the noise, drawing glares from nearby travelers. Maria, his co-worker, shot him a warning look, her hands moving frantically over her keyboard. "Tom, ease up," she muttered, barely audible. Tom ignored her, slamming a stack of papers onto the counter. "Next," he barked, his eyes darting nervously toward the crowd, as if he sensed something brewing. Aysel's phone vibrated again. She glanced at the screen, her expression unreadable. The message read, "Videos at 100K views. News van spotted outside. They're asking about a mystery woman. Proceed." Aysel's fingers hovered over the keyboard, then typed a quick reply. "Hold. I'm not ready." She slipped the phone into her pocket and shifted her weight, her gaze locking onto Tom. She noted the sweat beading on his forehead, the way his hands shook slightly as he typed. He was unraveling, and she hadn't even made her move yet. Jake, the teenager with the phone, was still filming from a distance, perched on a bench near a charging station. His friend, sprawled beside him, was scrolling through the comments on the viral video. "Yo, Jake, this is nuts. Someone says she might be a government agent or something. Check this, she's too calm for a regular passenger." Jake grinned, zooming in on Aysel's face. "Nah, she's not a Fed. She's got, like, boss energy. But she's about to flip this whole place upside down." He adjusted his angle, catching the way Aysel's eyes flicked toward the counter, her posture relaxed, but deliberate. Aysel didn't notice the camera. Her focus was on the terminal's pulse, the way the staff moved, the way passengers reacted, the invisible lines of power and frustration crisscrossing the space. She'd been in places like this before, airports where people were reduced to numbers, where kindness was a luxury nobody could afford. But today was different. Today, she was here to pull back the curtain. Her fingers brushed the silver crescent moon necklace hidden under her scarf, a small anchor in the storm. She took a deep breath, her mind racing through the plan she'd been building for weeks. At the counter, Tom's supervisor, Mr. Hayes, stepped out of his office, his face a mask of exhaustion. He'd been on the phone with corporate for the last hour, trying to explain why Terminal 4 was trending on X for all the wrong reasons. His eyes scanned the crowd, landing on Aysel for a brief moment. He frowned, his gut telling him she was more than she seemed. He approached the counter, clipboard in hand, and leaned toward Maria. "What's with Tom today?" "He's making things worse," Maria sighed, her voice low. "He's been like this all shift. That woman he snapped at earlier, she didn't even fight back. That's what's weird." Hayes glanced toward Aysel's spot near gate 23, but she was too far to make out clearly. "Keep an eye on him," he said. Walking back to his office. Aysel watched Hayes retreat, her eyes narrowing. She'd seen his type before middle management, caught between corporate pressure and frontline chaos, trying to keep the ship from sinking. Her phone buzzed again, this time with a call. She answered, keeping her voice low. "What's the latest?" The voice on the other end was crisp, urgent. "News crews setting up outside. They're asking about a passenger who got mistreated. Your name's starting to circulate. We've got the terminal's internal logs. Tom's been flagged for 3 violations this month alone. You want us to leak it?" Aysel's lips curved into a faint smile. "Not yet," she said. "Let them dig a little deeper." She hung up, her eyes flicking back to the counter. The crowd was growing louder, the tension palpable. A man in a baseball cap was arguing with another staff member, his voice booming. "I've been here for 8 hours. You're telling me I'm stuck because your system crashed? This is bullshit." The staff member, a young man with a strained smile, repeated the same script. "Sir, we're doing everything we can. Please join the customer service line." The man laughed bitterly, pulling out his phone. "Oh, I'm recording this. You're all going viral for this crap." A few passengers cheered, their phones out, adding to the growing digital storm. Jake's video was now at 150,000 views, the comments section a wildfire of theories and outrage. "This airline's a joke," one user wrote. "Who's that woman? She's gotta be someone big," another added. A few trolls mocked Aysel's appearance, but most were hooked, demanding answers. "She's not just a passenger," one comment read, "but she's gonna make them regret this." Jake was glued to his phone, filming Aysel as she stood near the gate. "She's too calm, man," he whispered to his friend. "Something's about to go down." His friend nodded, scrolling through more comments. "Dude, if this hits 1,000,000 views, you're gonna be famous." Aysel moved again, her steps slow and deliberate, weaving through the crowd toward a newsstand. The TV above it was playing a local channel, the anchor discussing the airport chaos. JFK Terminal 4 is in disarray tonight, with hundreds of passengers stranded due to a system failure. Social media is buzzing with reports of mistreatment by airline staff. Aysel paused, her eyes on the screen. She knew the news crew was close, sniffing out a story. She adjusted her scarf, her fingers brushing the necklace again. It was a small thing, but it kept her grounded, a reminder of the stakes. Back at the counter, Tom was losing his grip. The constant complaints, the glares from passengers, the pressure from Hayes, it was all piling up. He snapped at another passenger, a woman with a baby in her arms. "I don't care about your meeting. There's no flights." The woman's face crumpled, and she walked away, her shoulders shaking. Maria grabbed Tom's arm, her voice sharp. "You need to stop. You're making this worse." Tom yanked his arm away, his voice low but venomous. "They're the ones making it worse. That woman earlier, acting all high and mighty. She's probably still here, plotting something." Maria frowned, glancing toward gate 23. "You don't even know her name, Tom. Maybe you should have checked." In his office, Hayes was back on the phone, his voice tense. "I need more on this passenger. Aysel, female, maybe late 30s, wearing a headscarf. She's not in the system as a VIP, but something's not right." The security officer on the other end sounded skeptical. Could just be a regular passenger, Hayes. You're overthinking it. Hayes shook his head, staring at the frozen security footage on his screen. Aysel's face stared back, her calm unnerving. No, he said. She's not regular. Find out who she is. He hung up, his fingers drumming on the desk. The terminal was a tinderbox, and Aysel was the spark. Aysel's phone buzzed again. She stepped into a quieter corner, answering the call. What's the status? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper. The voice on the other end was tense. Corporates freaking out. They know you're there. The news crew's asking questions, and X is lighting up with your video. We've got enough to move now. Tom's records. The terminal logs everything. Just say the word. Aysel's eyes flicked toward the counter, where Tom was still snapping at passengers. Not yet. She said, I want them to feel it first. She hung up, her gaze settling on a group of passengers filming the counter. The terminal was a pressure cooker, and she was turning up the heat. The chaos in JFK's Terminal 4 was a living thing, a beast fed by the shouts of stranded passengers, the crackle of intercoms, and the clatter of rolling suitcases. Aysel stood near a deserted gate, her back to a floor-to-ceiling window that framed the tarmac outside. Planes sat idle under the harsh glare of floodlights, their stillness a mocking contrast to the frenzy inside. Her faded jeans and plain t-shirt made her a ghost in the crowd, her headscarf a quiet detail that barely registered. But her eyes were sharp, cutting through the noise, tracking every movement. Tom's sharp gestures at the check-in counter, the nervous glances of his co-worker Maria, the restless energy of passengers filming with their phones. Aysel's fingers brushed the silver crescent moon necklace hidden beneath her scarf, a small ritual that steadied her. She was a conductor, and the terminal was her orchestra, building toward a crescendo she'd orchestrated long before she stepped foot in JFK. Her phone buzzed in her pocket. She pulled it out, her expression unreadable as she read the message. Videos at 250K views. News crews inside now, sniffing around. Corporates in panic mode. Someone leaked Tom's complaint history. Ready to move. Aysel's lips twitched, not quite a smile, as she typed a reply. Almost. Wait for my signal. She slipped the phone back into her pocket and shifted her gaze to the counter, where Tom was unraveling. His voice was louder now, cracking under the strain. I don't care about your damn schedule. No flights, no exceptions. He snapped at a man in a polo shirt, who threw his hands up and stormed off, muttering about lawyers. Maria grabbed Tom's arm, her voice low but urgent. You're digging your own grave, Tom. Hayes is watching, and now there's a news crew out there. Cool it. Tom yanked his arm away, his face red. Let them watch. These people think they can bully me into fixing their problems. Not happening. But his eyes betrayed him, darting nervously toward the crowd, searching for Aysel. He hadn't seen her since she'd walked away, and her absence gnawed at him. Something about her quiet defiance, her refusal to argue, felt like a trap he couldn't see. Aysel watched from her vantage point, her mind cataloging every detail. The way Tom's hands shook as he typed, the way Maria's shoulders tensed when Hayes appeared, the way passengers were now openly filming the counter. The terminal was a powder keg, and she held the match. She'd seen this before, in other airports, other cities' systems that chewed up people and spit them out, staff stretched thin, passengers treated like numbers. But today wasn't about observing. Today was about action. Jake, the teenager with the phone, was still filming, perched on a bench near a charging station. His friend, sprawled beside him, was reading comments aloud. Yo, Jake, this is wild. Someone says she's a whistleblower. Another says she's some kind of activist. Check this, she's gonna take down the whole airline. Jake grinned, zooming in on Aysel's silhouette against the window. She's not moving, but it's like she's controlling everything. Look at her, she's too calm. He adjusted his angle, catching the way Aysel's eyes flicked toward the news crew now setting up near the newsstand. This is gonna blow up, man. We're at 300,000 views already. Aysel didn't notice the camera. Her focus was on the news crew, a young reporter in a blazer, her cameraman adjusting a tripod, their eyes scanning the crowd for a story. The reporter was talking to a passenger, a woman in a bright red coat who was gesturing wildly toward the counter. Aysel's phone buzzed again, this time with a call. She stepped into a quieter corner, answering in a low voice. "What's the update?" The voice on the other end was tense, professional. "News crew's asking about a mistreated passenger. They've got Tom's name from the video. Corporate's trying to spin it, but X is tearing them apart. We've got enough to drop the bomb. Tom's records, security logs, even audio from the counter. Just say the word." Aysel's eyes narrowed, her voice steady. "Not yet. I want them to sweat." She hung up, her gaze returning to the counter. At the check-in desk, Hayes emerged from his office, his face pale. He'd just gotten off the phone with corporate, and the news wasn't good. "They're saying someone's leaking internal data," he muttered to Maria, keeping his voice low. "Complaints about Tom, system logs, everything. And that woman, nobody can find her in the system." Maria frowned, glancing toward the gate where Aysel had last been seen. "The one Tom snapped at?" "She didn't even fight back." "That's what's weird." Hayes nodded, his gut twisting. "She's not just a passenger." "I'm sure of it." He pulled out his phone, dialing security again. "I need a full sweep. Find that woman. Headscarf, jeans, late 30s. She's key to this." The crowd was growing louder, the tension electric. A man in a leather jacket was shouting at another staff member, his phone out, recording. "This is a disgrace. You're all incompetent." The staff member, a young woman with a tight bun, was visibly shaken, her voice trembling as she repeated the script. "Sir, I'm sorry, but there's nothing we can do tonight." The man laughed, his voice booming. "Oh, you're gonna hear from my lawyer. This is all over X." A few passengers cheered, their phones joining the chorus of cameras capturing the chaos. Jake's video was now at 400,000 views, the comments a frenzy of outrage and speculation. "This airline's done for," one user wrote. "That woman's gonna sue them into oblivion," another added. A few trolls mocked Aysel's appearance, but most were captivated, demanding answers. "She's not just a passenger," one comment read, "but she's got dirt on the whole company." Jake was glued to his phone, filming Aysel as she stood near the window. "She's like a chess player, man," he whispered to his friend. "Every move's planned." His friend nodded, scrolling through more comments. "If this hits 1 million, you're set." "Bro." Aysel moved again, her steps deliberate, weaving through the crowd toward the newsstand. The TV above it was now showing live footage of the terminal, the anchor's voice cutting through the noise. "JFK is in chaos tonight, with reports of passengers being mistreated by airline staff. Social media is buzzing with a viral video showing a woman being dismissed at the check-in counter." Aysel paused, her eyes on the screen. She knew the news crew was closing in, their cameras searching for her. She adjusted her scarf, her fingers brushing the necklace again. It was her anchor, a reminder of the stakes. Back at the counter, Tom was crumbling. The constant complaints, the glares, the news crew's presence, it was too much. He snapped at another passenger, a woman with a baby in her arms. "I don't care about your kid's doctor appointment. There's no flights." The woman's face crumpled, and she walked away, tears streaming. Maria grabbed Tom's arm, her voice sharp. "You're done, Tom. Go take a break before you get us all fired." Tom yanked his arm away, his voice low but venomous. "They're the problem, not me. That woman earlier, she's probably out there stirring this up." Maria shook her head, her eyes flicking toward the gate. "You don't even know her name. Maybe you should have checked." In his office, Hayes was staring at the security footage, Aysel's face frozen on the screen. He zoomed in, trying to place her. Her calm, her refusal to argue, it was unnerving. He picked up his phone, dialing corporate again. "It's Hayes. I need everything you've got on a passenger named Aysel. She's not in the system, but she's here, and she's trouble." The voice on the other end was panicked. "We're trying, but someone's leaking data. X is exploding, and the news crew's asking questions. If this gets worse, heads are gonna roll." Hayes hung up, his fingers drumming on the desk. He knew he was running out of time. Aysel's phone buzzed again. She stepped into a quieter corner, answering the call. "What's the latest?" The voice was urgent. "The news crew's got your face from the video. They're calling you the mystery passenger. Corporate's trying to bury it, but we've got everything. Tom's complaints, the logs, even a recording of him snapping at a disabled passenger last week. We can drop it now." Aysel's eyes flicked toward the news crew. now interviewing a passenger near the counter. "Wait," she said. "I'm almost ready." She hung up, her gaze settling on Tom. He was still at the counter, his hands shaking, his voice louder than ever. The terminal was a tinderbox, and Aysel was about to light the fuse. The air in JFK's terminal for was electric, charged with the raw energy of frustration and defiance. Passengers paced, their voices a jagged chorus of complaints, while the intercom droned on about delays, its robotic tone mocking the chaos below. Aysel stood near a deserted gate, her silhouette framed against the dark glass of a window overlooking the tarmac. Her faded jeans and plain t-shirt blended into the crowd, her headscarf a subtle detail that went unnoticed by most. But her eyes were a storm, sharp and unrelenting, tracking every movement in the terminal. Tom's flailing gestures at the check-in counter, Maria's tense whispers, the news crew weaving through the crowd like sharks smelling blood. Her fingers brushed the silver crescent moon necklace hidden beneath her scarf, a quiet anchor in the madness. She was no longer just a passenger. She was a force, and the terminal was about to feel her weight. Her phone buzzed in her pocket, the screen lighting up with a message, videos at 500K views. News crews live now, naming Tom. Corporates in full damage control leaks are everywhere. Drop the bomb. Aysel's lips curved into a faint, calculated smile as she typed a reply. Soon. Wait for my move. She slipped the phone back into her pocket and shifted her gaze to the counter, where Tom was unraveling faster than ever. His voice was a jagged blade, cutting through the noise. "I don't care about your sob story. No flights, no exceptions," he shouted at a man in a hoodie, who slammed his fist on the counter and stormed off, his phone already recording. Tom's face was flushed, his tie hanging loose, sweat staining his shirt. He was a man on the edge, and Aysel knew it. Maria, his co-worker, grabbed his arm, her voice low but sharp. "Tom, you're done. Get out of here before you make this worse." Tom yanked his arm away, his eyes wild. "They're the ones making it worse. That woman from earlier, she's probably behind this whole mess." He scanned the crowd, searching for Aysel, but she was too far, too hidden in the chaos. Maria shook her head, her hands trembling as she typed. "You don't even know her name, Tom. You should have checked the system." Tom snorted, but his bravado was crumbling, his hands shaking as he fumbled with a stack of boarding passes. Aysel watched from her spot near the gate, her mind a machine, processing every detail. The way Tom's voice cracked, the way Maria's eyes darted to Hayes' office, the way passengers were now openly filming, their phones a constellation of glowing screens. She'd seen this before, in airports across the world, systems that broke people, staff who forgot their humanity, passengers reduced to numbers. But today was different. Today, she was here to tear it all down. Her phone buzzed again, this time with a call. She stepped into a quieter corner, answering in a whisper. "What's the status?" The voice on the other end was urgent, clipped. "News crews live on air, calling it a customer service disaster. They've got Tom's name and a clip of him yelling. X is exploding 700K views now. We've got everything, his complaint history, security logs, even a whistleblower from corporate. Say the word, and we release it all." Aysel's eyes flicked to the news crew, now filming near the counter. "Wait," she said. "I'm almost there." She hung up, her gaze locking onto Tom. At the check-in desk, Hayes emerged from his office, his face ashen. He'd been on the phone with corporate for the last 20 minutes, and the news was grim. "They're saying the leaks are coming from inside," he muttered to Maria, his voice barely audible over the crowd. "Someone's feeding X with internal data. Tom's write-ups, system failures, everything. And that woman, she's not in the system." Maria frowned, glancing toward the gate where Aysel had been. "The one Tom snapped at?" She didn't even fight back. "That's what's weird." Hayes nodded, his gut churning. "She's not a regular passenger. I'm sure of it." He pulled out his phone, dialing security again. "I need a full sweep. Find that woman, headscarf, jeans, late 30s. She's the key to this." The crowd was a tinderbox, ready to ignite. A woman in a bright yellow jacket was shouting at another staff member, her voice echoing. "I've been here for 10 hours. You're telling me I'm stuck because you can't do your job." The staff member, a young man with a strained smile, repeated the script. "Mum, I'm sorry, but all flights are grounded until tomorrow." The woman laughed bitterly, pulling out her phone. "This is going on, X. You're all done for." A few passengers cheered, their phones joining the fray, capturing every moment. The news crew was now in the thick of it, the reporter interviewing a man in a suit who was ranting about incompetent staff. The cameraman panned across the crowd, catching Aysel's silhouette for a split second before she moved out of frame. Jake, the teenager with the phone, was still filming, his eyes glued to Aysel. His friend was reading comments aloud, his voice giddy. "Yo, Jake, this is insane. Someone says she's a corporate spy. Another says she's a billionaire in disguise. Check this, she's gonna burn this airline to the ground." Jake grinned, zooming in on Aysel's face. "She's not moving, but it's like she's running the show. Look at her, she knows something." He adjusted his angle, catching the way Aysel's eyes flicked toward the news crew. "This is gonna hit 1,000,000 views, man. We're gonna be famous." His friend nodded, scrolling through more comments. "Dude, X is going crazy. Everyone's calling her the mystery passenger." Aysel didn't notice the camera. Her focus was on the terminal's pulse, the way the staff crumbled under pressure, the way passengers fed off each other's anger, the way the news crew circled like vultures. She'd been in places like this before, airports where power dynamics were laid bare, where people showed their true colors. But today was her stage, and she was ready to step into the spotlight. She adjusted her scarf, her fingers brushing the necklace again. It was her talisman, a reminder of why she was here, not just to catch a flight, but to expose a system that had failed too many for too long. Back at the counter, Tom was spiraling. The news crew's presence, the passengers' cameras, the whispers about a mystery woman, it was all closing in. He snapped at another passenger, a man with a cane who was asking about a wheelchair. "I don't have time for this. Talk to customer service." The man's face fell, and he hobbled away, his cane tapping against the floor. Maria grabbed Tom's arm again, her voice sharp. "You're done, Tom. Go." "Now." Tom shook her off, his voice low but venomous. "They're the problem, not me. That woman from earlier, she's out there, stirring this up." "I know it." Maria shook her head, her eyes flicking toward the gate. "You don't even know her name. You messed up, Tom." In his office, Hayes was staring at the security footage, Aysel's face frozen on the screen. He zoomed in, her calm eyes staring back like a challenge. He picked up his phone, dialing corporate again. "It's Hayes. I need everything on this passenger." Aysel, no less name, late 30s, headscarf. "She's not in the system, but she's here, and she's trouble." The voice on the other end was panicked. "We're drowning, Hayes. X is tearing us apart, and the news is live. Someone's leaking everything, staff records, system logs, even emails. If this gets worse, we're done." Hayes hung up, his fingers drumming on the desk. He knew the clock was ticking. Aysel's phone buzzed again. She stepped into a quieter corner, answering the call. "What's the latest?" The voice was urgent. "News crews got your face on live TV. They're calling you the mystery passenger. Corporate's trying to bury it, but we've got everything: Tom's complaints, security logs, even a recording of him snapping at a disabled passenger last week. We can drop it now." Aysel's eyes flicked toward the counter, where Tom was still shouting. "Wait," she said. "I'm ready." She hung up, her gaze settling on the crowd. She took a deep breath, her fingers brushing the necklace one last time. Then she started walking, her steps deliberate, toward the check-in counter. The crowd parted slightly as she moved, some sensing her presence, others too caught up in their own anger. Jake's camera followed, his heart racing. "She's moving," he whispered, his voice trembling with excitement. "This is it." His friend nodded, his eyes wide. "Yo, this is gonna be huge." Aysel reached the counter, her posture calm but commanding. Tom was still shouting, but his voice faltered as he saw her approach. The news crew turned, their camera locking onto her. The terminal held its breath. The air in JFK's terminal crackled with tension, a storm ready to break. The crowd was a living thing, pulsing with anger and anticipation, their phones out, capturing every moment. The news crew's camera swept across the chaos, its red light a beacon in the dim light of the terminal. Aysel stood at the edge of the check-in counter, her faded jeans and plain t-shirt making her look like just another passenger, her headscarf a quiet detail that blended into the background. But her presence was electric, her eyes sharp and unyielding, locking onto Tom as he fumbled with a stack of boarding passes. The silver crescent moon necklace beneath her scarf caught the light, a subtle hint of the power she carried. She was no longer invisible. The terminal was her stage, and she was about to bring the curtain down. Tom's voice was ragged. His face flushed as he snapped at another passenger. "I told you, no flights. Stop wasting my time." The passenger, a woman in a business suit, threw her hands up, her voice shaking. "This is unacceptable. I'm recording this." Tom's eyes darted nervously, catching Aysel's approach. His hands froze on the keyboard, his bravado crumbling. Maria, his co-worker, noticed Aysel too, her eyes widening. "Tom, that's her," she whispered, her voice tight. Tom's jaw clenched, but he didn't respond, his gaze locked on Aysel like a cornered animal. Aysel stepped forward, her movements deliberate, her voice calm but cutting through the noise like a blade. "Excuse me," she said, addressing Tom directly. The crowd hushed, phones tilting to capture her. Tom's face paled, his voice faltering. "What do you want?" "I already told you, there's no flights." Aysel didn't flinch. She reached into her pocket, pulling out a sleek black card, and slid it across the counter. "Check this," she said, her tone steady but commanding. Tom stared at the card, his hands trembling as he picked it up. The crowd leaned in, their whispers a low hum. The news crew's camera zoomed in, the reporter's voice barely audible as she narrated. A tense moment here at JFK, as a passenger confronts airline staff. Tom's eyes widened as he read the card. His voice was a whisper. This can't be real." Aysel's gaze didn't waver. "Check it again." Maria leaned over, her eyes scanning the card. Her face went pale, her mouth falling open. The card read, Aysel Khan, CEO, Horizon Airlines. Gasps rippled through the crowd, phones shaking as passengers filmed. Jake, the teenager who'd been recording all day, nearly dropped his phone. "Yo, what?" he whispered to his friend, his camera still rolling. "She's the CEO? This is insane." His friend was scrolling through X, where the video was now at 800,000 views, the comments exploding. "She's the boss?" Tom's done for. Aysel stood tall, her voice calm but powerful, addressing not just Tom, but the entire terminal. "I came here today as a passenger to see how my airline treats people. I wanted to know what happens when someone looks like they don't belong, when they're just another face in the crowd." Her eyes locked onto Tom, who was frozen, the card still in his hand. "You dismissed me without a second thought. You dismissed everyone here. That ends now." The crowd erupted in cheers, some clapping, others shouting in agreement. The news crew pushed closer, the reporter's voice rising. "We're witnessing a stunning revelation here at JFK, as a woman who was mistreated by staff reveals she's the CEO of Horizon Airlines." Tom stammered, his voice barely audible. I didn't know." "I'm sorry." Aysel's expression didn't soften. "This isn't about apologies. It's about respect. You don't get to pick who deserves it." Maria stepped back, her hands shaking, her eyes darting to Hayes' office. Hayes was already at the door, his face ashen, watching the scene unfold. He'd known something was off about Aysel, but this was a nightmare. He pushed through the crowd, his voice strained. Double quotes, "Ms. Khan, I had no idea. We'll fix this, I promise." Aysel's gaze shifted to him, her eyes like steel. "You've had years to fix this, Hayes. Your staff reflects your leadership." The crowd roared, their phones capturing every word. Jake's video was now at 1 million views, the comments a wildfire of support and outrage. "She's a legend," one user wrote. "This airline's finished," another added. The news crew was live, the reporter barely keeping up. "This is a historic moment at JFK, as Aysel Khan, CEO of Horizon Airlines, calls out her own staff for mistreatment." "Stay tuned for more." Aysel didn't acknowledge the cameras. She turned to the crowd, her voice steady. "Everyone here deserves better. Starting now, we're making changes. All passengers affected by today's cancellations will be rebooked for free, with compensation. Staff will be retrained, and those who can't treat every passenger with respect will be gone. The crowd cheered louder, some chanting her name. Tom was frozen, his face a mask of panic. Maria whispered to him, "You're done, Tom. You should have listened." Hayes stepped forward, his voice desperate. "Ms. Khan, let's discuss this privately. We can resolve." Aysel cut him off, her voice firm. "This isn't private. This is public. Your passengers deserve to know what's happening." She turned back to the crowd, her presence commanding. "I'm here because I believe in this airline. But I believe in you more, every one of you, no matter how you look, where you're from, or what ticket you hold." The terminal erupted, the noise deafening. Passengers were hugging, filming, cheering. Jake's friend was reading comments aloud, his voice shaking. "Yo, this is unreal. People are calling her a hero. Someone said she's trending worldwide." Jake kept filming, his heart racing. "This is bigger than viral, man. This is history." The news crew was now surrounded by passengers, all clamoring to tell their stories. The reporter was shouting into her mic, trying to be heard over the chaos. Aysel Khan's revelation has turned JFK upside down. This could change the airline industry forever. Aysel stepped back from the counter, her work here done. She adjusted her scarf, her fingers brushing the necklace one last time. She glanced at Tom, who was now surrounded by security, his face buried in his hands. Hayes was on the phone, his voice frantic as he tried to explain to corporate what had just happened. Aysel didn't linger. She walked toward a private exit, where a sleek black car was waiting. The crowd parted for her, some reaching out to thank her, others still filming. Jake followed with his camera, his voice a whisper. "She's leaving, but this ain't over." As Aysel reached the exit, a woman in a sharp suit approached, her voice low. "Everything's in place, Ms. Khan. The leaks are out, corporate's scrambling, and the board's behind you." Aysel nodded, her expression calm but resolute. "Good. Keep the pressure on. This is just the start." She stepped into the car, the door closing with a soft thud. The crowd watched in awe as the car pulled away, disappearing into the night. Back in the terminal, the chaos continued, but it was different now, charged with hope, with possibility. Passengers were sharing Aysel's story, their phones lighting up with notifications. Jake's video hit a million views, the comments a tidal wave of support. "She's a queen." One user wrote, "This is what power looks like." Another added, "The news crew stayed," interviewing passengers who were now chanting for change. Hayes was in his office, his career hanging by a thread. Tom was escorted out, his head down, his arrogance gone. Aysel's car sped through the city, the lights of New York blurring past. She leaned back, her phone buzzing with messages from her team, from the board, from the media. She ignored them, her eyes on the horizon. She'd come to JFK to expose the truth, and she'd done it not just for herself, but for every passenger who'd ever been dismissed, ignored, or forgotten. The terminal was just the beginning. The world was watching now, and Aysel Khan was ready to change it.